Alright. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Patch of the Week. In this week's patch, I'd like to break down a sound that I used in my jam that I published on Monday. I'm really happy with this jam, but what made it particularly interesting was the Monolith synthesizer that I used in this jam. What is the Monolith synthesizer? It's basically a project for the Elektron Octatrack that, together with some fancy routing, transforms the machine into a 4-oscillator monophonic digital wavetable synthesizer. And if you think it sounds stupid, on paper it does. But this concept, coupled with the audio mangling capabilities of the Octatrack, makes for a really interesting monophonic synthesizer. And I'd like to demonstrate that. Let's get right into it. Okay, so here's the basic patch. How this works is that I have my MIDI track 1 set to MIDI channel 1, and it's sending MIDI out right back into in. So it's sort of a MIDI loop in a sense. And then for my channel settings in here, I have track 1, 2, and 3 set up to receive on channel 1. Track 4 is off because I used it for samples. MIDI track 1 is sending the sequence to all 3 oscillators on those 3 tracks. And because I also use MIDI through, it's syncing my RYTM, my analog 4, and also it's sending MIDI to the MS-20. So it's just one very simple sequence. It's just... But the patch sounds pretty complex. Why is that? Well, it's thanks to the power of the Octatrack. So let's break it down track by track. First of all, the bass track, here on track 3. So I have a basic waveform. Here's the waveform. It looks weird, but sounds pretty cool. And it's just a straightforward sequence. So when it comes to playback and amp, not much happening in here, really. When it comes to the LFO page, I just have a free-flowing LFO modulating the filter. And the filter is in here. And you can see that the resonance is cranked up pretty high. And it's just modulating the low-pass filter for a cool effect. And in here, I have a lo-fi effect set up, which gives a little oomph to the oscillator. Without. And let's hear it in the high end. Pretty cool. So that's the bass. Then when it comes to the lead part, it's pretty much the same deal with a very short release. So that's a little bit more staccato. Nothing happening in here on that playback page, but you see that the higher octave is selected. Really nothing happening in the LFO department, but there's a chorus in here, which is responsible for all the coolness in here. That's just the pure oscillator. Let me show you the wave, by the way. Here's the wave, pretty nice. With a little chorus, it just adds this weird, almost FM-like effect to it. And then we have the lo-fi, which just makes it a little bit more gritty and cool. And on track number 3, I have the craziest mod. Same sequence. But what's different in here is that I'm using the LFO to modulate the length parameter. The length parameter gives you this chiptune effect in a sense. That's what it sounds like without the modulation. Yeah. And there's another cool thing in here. I have a retrigger set to 50, fairly high. That's just the raw square oscillator in here. Just a square. But when I add some retrigger to it, gives this one harmonic note in here, which is pretty cool. Then when it comes to effects, I have high pass filter. Make it truly chiptune, and here, and a little delay. But this delay is set up to work as a freeze delay, which means I can do this. And when I add I can do a lot of cool things with this. So yeah, that's the basic architecture in here. But there's one more thing. Thanks to some interesting routing, your Q out is going back into input 1. And in here on track 5, you have a through machine set up to receive via inputs C and D. And I have a neighbor track in here, which means that I can send each oscillator to effects like that. Right now, it's just dry going through the main out. But if I add Q to it, by pressing Q and track number, it starts blinking. And now it's going dry and with effects. Or just with effects. So I can decide how to route my oscillators, which is really cool. The only drawback is that everything is being sent through the main out, so you get one stereo track in here, which can be a bit of a challenge when mixing. Yeah, so that's it. That's the breakdown of my patch. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions about the Monolith synthesizer that you would like me to answer in my Monday video, please drop them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great night. Take care.